Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another Sonetta TV House of Consciousness production. As you know by now, we are going national. We going live all the way in Zimbabwe. My brother Sinclair is in Zimbabwe right now with our African brothers and sisters. I also have with me my brother Professor Dr. Issa in the building. So I want to welcome my brother Dr. Issa, and Issa will bring on Brother Sinclair. So without any further ado, Dr. Issa is on you, my brother.
Hey, we live because right here it says it's still waiting.
No, we live, brother. We live.
All right. Well, Peace and Black Power, Black News 102 audience. We're here with Brother Sinclair Skinner, one of the world's renowned Bitcoin technology experts for Africa. And he's live with his partner in Zimbabwe. And what's interesting, Sonetta, we just interviewed Miss Patricia Viola Plummer.
Right. Oh, that's going up today, brother. I'm working on that today.
And in that interview, all you're going to see is images of Zimbabwe and Mugabe, right? Right in her space. So now we got brother Sinclair Skinner, who's the king of Bitcoin for Zimbabwe and in East Africa, and they're going to talk about technology and Pan-Africanism. So here you go, brother Sinclair. Sinclair is he's not new to this. This will be his first international interview live from East Africa. Go in, brother Sinclair.
All right, brother Sinclair. You got the mic, brother. Let us know where you at in Zimbabwe. Talk to us. Introduce yourself and introduce the brother that's next to you.
Yes, thank you so much, big brother Jahid, and thank you so much, brother Sonetta, for your platform. That really is the only way and the only opportunity for us, the brothers and sisters throughout the diaspora together. What you've been able to build over the years is priceless. This is like a special jewel, and I hope everyone appreciate how precious it is. And we're just thankful that you would allow us the time, your channel to shoot news and inform us about this technology. And want to introduce my colleague who's on the ground organizing on BitMari's behalf.
I'm Tawanda. I'm an intern for BitMari, and we're working together with Sinclair to make this BitMari thing work.
All right. So we've been working on this project for about 2 years, and what we're doing is we're using the Bitcoin technology that we've talked about to connect African folks on the ground here in Zimbabwe, as well as those in the diaspora, to make financial transactions. And for the first time in history, we have a technology that will render the Barclays and these big international banks obsolete. We'll be able to do transactions without Western Union, without the MoneyGrams. And it's really amazing.
So what does that mean financially for a place like Zimbabwe? I mean, how much money comes in via Western Union and MoneyGram? And how much money does that take away from the government ability to do business?
Well, the African remittances is upward to like $14 billion. I mean, these numbers are amazing. And if you look at the remittance fees in Africa as a continent, they're the highest of all the continents. So what that does, it slows down business in Africa. So when you have someone having to spend, if they want to send $100, if they got to spend $20 to send $100, you're right now making a difference between if they're going to be able to pay their light bill or the water bill. So what we are doing is using technology to reduce those fees to the point where it's money back in the people that earn the money. So Western Union and MoneyGram have very predatory business practices in Africa. And that's one of the ways they've maintained the colonial hold over Africa. It's no longer done through just manipulating the politics. The economies are manipulated. No longer does England or the United States manufacture anything, but they still control the financial systems. But if we can use technologies like Bitcoin, which allows us to transact almost free, almost instant with this powerful technology, when you connect from the United States to the Caribbean to the continent of Africa, we're going to be able to trade in a way that allows us to do it without being controlled by Europeans or their infrastructure. And that's a big deal. So we're working, we have a partner here in Zimbabwe called AgriBank. It's a local indigenous bank its mission is to help the farmers in Zimbabwe. So we've been working with about 80 Black women farmers here in Zimbabwe. And many of these farmers are land reform farmers. The land that they're using is the land they were able to get to, they actually took back from the former colonial settlers, and they're now using that land to feed their families, their communities, the nation. And with the help of BitMari, we think that we can also feed the world. So again, it's a powerful technology. We're leveraging it to empower the women farmers in Zimbabwe, and we're also using it to help remittances in Africa. And Zimbabwe is just our starting place. So we've already been in talks with several other Southern African countries, from Mozambique and Namibia. There's our product that we currently have is being used in over 26 nations. So when we say Pan-Africanism, we know that African people all over the world, and it's about time that we reconnect each other financially. And now we have a tool through Bitcoin, BitMari, to do that. And that's our mission. And we've been working on this and been very successful.
Yes. Now, you recently said that the Bank of Zimbabwe, the government is now, for the first time ever, due to your own efforts and your brother here that's sitting right next to you, effort, now the government is officially going to allow you to make what type of transactions with Bitcoin. And this the first time that this has ever been done in Zimbabwe or East Africa or Africa, period, where a government has gotten involved.
Yeah, Zimbabwe is a part of the SADC region, Southern African Collective. And with the SADC region, we're not only the first to be able to sanction remittances, we're actually are going to be able to empower local people to receive hard currency using the blockchain, the Bitcoin. So we're not going to actually be giving Bitcoin to people in the country. What we're going to be using is the technology side of the country to use Bitcoin to get dollars in the hands of people on the ground. Let me say it another way. What's amazing about Bitcoin, if you want to use an analogy, and this brother named Reggie Middleton, who's a Howard University graduate, was amazing. He gave the analogy, Bitcoin is like, not just like a car, it's like a car and the road. So the actual value would be the car, but it actually has its own ability to have its own road. So we're using the road of Bitcoin to be able to move value from the States, from Europe, back to Africa, back to Zimbabwe. And the customers are going to be able to pick up USD at AgriBank tellers, or they're going to be able to pick it up using their mobile banking cell phones. So in a very real way, we're going to help deal with the issue. Right now, our United States government has sanctions against Zimbabwe. Right now, there's a move to destabilize Zimbabwe. And what we've said is that we're not going to fight things like that with politics. We're going to use technology to render some of these terrible things ineffective and obsolete. What we're doing is actually leveraging technology to give the local people on the ground access to capital in a world where it becomes very difficult to do so. So again, what the government has allowed us to do is to be able to utilize Bitcoin technology for people to get USD on the ground in Zimbabwe for the first time ever. And there's no other African country that has set up and been as bold as Zimbabwe to do this.
Wow. So right now, Zimbabwe is the only country in Africa that's doing this through your efforts.
Yeah, my co-founder is Christopher Mapendera. He also went to Howard University, where I went to school too, along with Tuskegee. I went to Tuskegee University first and then Howard. And we've been working on this for about 2 years, and we've been educating the government as well as other people in the communities. Not just, to be candid, it's not just us. There are many brilliant brothers and sisters on the ground here in Zimbabwe that know Bitcoin, and they're super smart people. And what we've been doing is trying to amplify their voices, amplify their efforts, and it's all coming together now through BitMari and our partner AgriBank in order to provide this incredible technology to help the people on the ground. And that's what it is. We want to make technology relevant. It's not just good enough to say that we have a new technology and it's better than Western Union. We have to get it to the people. And being on shows like Sonetta Show, where there's some of the most active and progressive people on the planet, if we can get this knowledge and information in the hands of these progressive people, that they will be able to do so much more than what we've started. This is just the beginning. This is like the early days of the internet. We're just looking at some of the few applications. When the internet came out, everyone thought it just was going to be used for just emailing people. Well, we've seen how the internet has changed media. No longer, the days we used to use a Kodak camera. We don't use Kodak cameras anymore. We just take a picture with our phone. So we're in a very transformational technology. It's very early. And we want to get as many of our progressive brothers and sisters who are conscious and aware of our origins in Africa, that we can decolonize ourselves, our lives, and the continent of Africa by using technology better than any other method that a person can imagine.
Brother Sinclair.
Well, look, somebody, go ahead, Sonetta, go ahead.
Brother Sinclair, I've been reading some of the comments, and I came across a couple of comments where, some of the people said, well, Bitcoins have failed. And I would like for you to speak on that. What can Bitcoins do for us here in America? And talk about, have Bitcoin failed, or is it good? What can it do for us here?
I tell you what, I bought a car for $10,000 with Bitcoin in Zimbabwe while I was in the United States. I used Bitcoin to buy a $10,000 SUV, a Prada Land Cruiser. The power of this technology is amazing. And so the failure, again, when I talk about this technology, though, I always tell people to keep it in context. It's just like when I came and I started back doing business in Africa back in 2007, about 10 years ago. I told people I didn't think Africa was heaven, and I didn't think none of the presidents were Jesus. What I'm trying to say is none of this technology is perfect. But the US dollar that we use, not only is it a fraud, not is it based on nothing, magic and spooks, it is really something that's being used to manipulate and harm the continent of Africa by destabilizing the economies using this US currency. What I'm saying is Bitcoin is better than that. And if there are other brothers and sisters that come up with ideas to improve or do something better in Bitcoin, then we should do that too. But to keep using the same tired dollar or the same credit cards, this technology is old and antiquated. To pull out a paper dollar and tell me that there's a problem with Bitcoin, a person should be ashamed of themselves.
There you go, brother. That's why I want you to clear it up. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I don't compare Bitcoin to perfect. I compare it to them dirty green dollar paper that people walk around in their pockets thinking they got something when that thing ain't worth a damn dime.
Okay. Right now, what's going on in Zimbabwe? I see you got my African brother. Once again, family, this is an international live stream going on right now. My brother Sinclair Skinner, he's in Zimbabwe right now. He's there. So, brother, can you talk to us about a little bit of the history about our brother Robert Mugabe and how he has taken the land back to give back to the rightful owners of Zimbabwe? Talk to us a little bit about that too, brother.
All right. What's happening is like tomorrow it will be Independence Day for Zimbabwe, and most of the stuff that has been going on through the media about Zimbabwe is not true. What actually happens is that Zimbabwe is a free country. What is happening on the ground and what goes on through the media are two different things. Zimbabwe got its independence, and what Mugabe fights for and the war veterans is for the freedom of the people, to get back, to have the freedom to do things to have freedom to be decentralized. So the people in the media take that and the Europeans just to bring a bad name upon Zimbabwe. But if you take it from someone who's on the ground, it's a different story altogether. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what's up, brother?
Yeah. So and we've been working here, and like I said to anybody, you know, politics is to me not the best way to make a change. We think technology is, but if you want to find a country, Europeans don't dictate. Like they always talking about, tell people dictators in Africa are from Europe. They dictate everything in every country, even self-determination. And what we think here in Zimbabwe that's very unique compared to other African countries, the decisions that are made in Zimbabwe are for the betterment of Zimbabwe, not the betterment of the United States. And because of that autonomy and independence and self-determination, a lot of the European powers are afraid that that type of behavior to South Africa, to Namibia, and some of these other countries. So they try to vilify our leaders when they stand up and fight for self-determination. And again, I don't think any of these countries are perfect, especially governments. But Zimbabwe, and I've been to almost 60 different countries. I've been over 16 different African countries. I've never been to a country that has got its sovereignty as strongly and as resolute as Zimbabwe. Most other countries, they have to ask for permission or consult with Europeans and the United States for their policies of their country. Zimbabwe, they don't ask those kind of questions. They do what's best in the interest of their own people. So if you disagree with that, you're disagreeing with a free sovereign nation, not one that's a client state of Europe or Western powers.
So we got a lot of questions coming in. We got about 150 people watching this live right now. So we got a lot of questions. A lot of people are saying, can you day trade with Bitcoin now that the government is involved? What does that mean for a black person in the US? How can they get involved and make money too and help at the same time in Zimbabwe?
What we're going to do is we're going to be freeing up the opportunity for brothers and sisters on the in America to invest directly into Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, unlike the United States, if you got $2,000 to invest in Zimbabwe, you can get a multiplier of 5 to even 10 times that value returned to you by direct investments. Prior to now, you had to go through a lot of third parties that controlled these transactions. With the advent of the blockchain or Bitcoin technology and support of local banks and local government, we're going to be able to allow African Americans to connect to the opportunities on the ground. Right now, with all the things people say about Africa, there are Europeans and Asians all over taking advantage of the opportunities here in Zimbabwe as well as other countries.
Yes.
What we're going to do is we're leveraging this technology to create a platform, direct access for African Americans back to the continent. And if Marcus Garvey was here today, he would be using technology. He wouldn't be trying to take a boat or a cruise liner to Africa. He would be taking the internet and blockchain technology to Africa. So what we're saying is what we're doing is really about liberating and leveraging. Right now, the African American population has over $1 trillion buying power, trillions of dollars. So if we're over $1 trillion in buying power, the question is how much of that money actually is circulated through the continent of Africa? It's probably very little. And we did a study today. If we were able just to get 1% of that money, that'd be $10 billion. Now the economy of Zimbabwe is only $5 billion. So if you look at some of the numbers and the economic prowess of African Americans, if we really start executing a global collective economics, we can be supporting domestic Black businesses as well as diaspora, indigenous Black businesses, and actually create a new economy that's huge, is bigger than what we are seeing in the United States. But we're putting together the infrastructure for investment that will not be controlled by third parties for folks in America to invest in Zimbabwe. The first part of that will be agriculture. We think agriculture is one of the strengths of Zimbabwe, and the capitalization that is necessary to unleash this power is in the hands of the African Americans, and the expertise and the land is in the hands of the Zimbabweans. We put these two worlds together, we think we can do something that's transformational. Not about being against anybody, but we are for the collective economics of Black people. We're for the decolonizing of ourselves as well as the continent, and we're for economic development for all of us.
Well, Sinclair, one of the things I already know what people will want to do, they want to see Zimbabwe. So you got to shoot a quick video of your projects. What other projects are you doing in Zimbabwe outside of Bitcoin, and how is that going to help you financially and at the same time help the people on the ground in Africa?
Well, it's straightforward. So right now we're working with 80 farmers, 80 women farmers on 8 different farm projects from, what are the different projects?
We have got women farmers who are doing maize. We've got women farmers who are doing chickens. We've got women farmers who are doing tomatoes, and we've got women farmers who are doing beans and a whole lot more different agricultural activities. So in all the provinces of Zimbabwe.
Yeah, there's a total of 10 provinces. I think we're in like 8 provinces right now. And what we're doing is we've given these farmers the use of the Bitcoin technology by way of what they call a digital coupon. These farmers were able to use Bitcoin as a digital coupon to redeem supplies like maize, seed, fertilizer, and a host of other things like feed for the chickens, and pumps and water tanks, and agronomists that are helping them. But what we did was identify some of the best farmers, women farmers in Zimbabwe. And after this, the first year of the program, we're going to select out of these 80 farmers, the top farmers, like the best of the best of the best. And that's going to be based on their performance at growing the different crops that are growing through the cycle of this year. Once in November comes, we'll identify the best farmers, and we're going to connect them to direct investment from African Americans in the diaspora directly to these farmers. So what we're doing for the African American investor is we're actually doing the due diligence. We're actually identifying some of the best farmers and that's one of the hard things when you want to do something on the continent and you're not from here or have the ability to go back and forth, it's sometimes hard to discern what the best opportunities are. Well, what we're doing is identifying the best people. Because if you give it the right people, they're going to not only be successful, but with your help, you're going to be able to create something that's a multiplier.
I got a question real quick, Sinclair. Somebody just said in the question, you got about 170 people now watching. They're saying, how can I help today or invest right now?
All right, they just need to go to BitMari.com. BitMari.com.
You spell it.
We got the projects on there. BitMari.com.
All right, we'll throw that link in the BitMari.com. In fact, I'm going to put it in the comment now.
.com. Thank you, Tawanda. BitMari.com. And they can go to our Facebook page and see some of the farmers that we've been working with. Tawanda's been putting together. Tell what you've been doing to show the people.
I've been putting together the progress for the projects, and I've been putting them together as collages. And if you go to our Facebook page, you can see them on our timeline. They're all there. And you can go to our website, bitmari.com, as Sinclair mentioned earlier, and you can see how the project is going and how you can invest or be part of the project.
Absolutely. So that's
okay. I just put the website in the comment section, so people now have the website.
And what we're talking about leveraging is not just money, but what the incredible farmers on the ground also need is that they need access to markets. The one thing the European did when Mugabe and the war veterans took back the land, they cut off the markets for these farmers. So they made it very difficult for these farmers to get access to international markets. So sometimes
when you say markets, what do you mean? What do you mean by markets?
So, you know, let's take something like cattle or some of the Brussels sprouts or some of the crops. When the European had colonized Zimbabwe, when it was Rhodesia, they would actually have markets in Europe to sell their cattle, the beef, to sell the crops to European markets. They were actually subsidized in many ways by European markets. Once the indigenous African people got their land back, those markets were frozen. So let me say it another way. Because sometimes people they'll say, oh, well, they don't know how to grow like the Europeans did. No, the people who was growing in the first place was the indigenous people. The people who built the roads in Zimbabwe were the indigenous people. The buildings were built by the indigenous people. You can't find anything in Zimbabwe that wasn't built by indigenous hands. At no given time were there no more than about 4,000 Europeans in control of anything. And the hands and the brains and bodies that was building these things were indigenous African people. The problem was they did not have control of these things. That control was taken from them. Once they took back their land, retook what was theirs, those markets were closed, as well as investments. Oftentimes, the European farmers had access to loans and direct investment. Well, we hope that the African American has awoken. We hope that we're awake now, that we see that we can be involved in foreign trade, foreign policy, and international commerce. And if we get engaged in that, with our over 12 million, over our 12 our trillion dollars of buying power, we can be the engine that the European used to be in a positive way to transform the opportunities in Zimbabwe as well as other countries in Africa. So we think the help and the investment is not just financially. We think many of the African Americans are in key positions in business. They're managers, they are marketers, they're accountants. Those skill sets can be leveraged. So just as much as we leverage the finances of the African American community, We can leverage the professional skill set of the African Americans as well as the social networks of African Americans. And if we put those two together, the incredible brilliance of indigenous Africans, the incredible resourcefulness of the indigenous African community, with the access and opportunities of the African American community, that will be something very powerful in changing the world for better. And that's better for everyone. Our focus is 100% Black folks, but we know that the quality of life, the contribution of Black folks are essential if we're going to put the world back on the right path. And right now, we're living in a very toxic time where there's pollution, there's global warming, there's so many wars. We need new minds, new brains, ways, new approaches to how we're going to exist here together. And we think,
all right,
we can lead
Sinclair,
that.
my brother from Zimbabwe, they want to hear you talk. They want to know, do Africans in Zimbabwe want African Americans to come to Zimbabwe and help rebuild and make money?
Yes,
are they welcome? Are African Americans welcome back to Africa?
Very much welcome. You see, the Africans in Zimbabwe, they are free, and they have actually welcomed this type of investment very well, and they are so positive about this. It's like because of the sanctions that were placed upon Zimbabwe, we did not have access and opportunities. So the way BitMari comes and opens up opportunities for investment to come from the African Americans, it's actually what the Africans have been looking for and did not have for all along. Like, for instance, we look at the agricultural sector, where the European farmers, they were being subsidized by the government that was there, and the farmers that have the land right now, they do not have, some of them do not have enough capital, but they've got the potential, they've got the brains, they've got the skills, and all they want is someone who, all they need is a little aid or a little investment, and then they can get to produce a lot.
What about, somebody just asked a question, Sinclair, maybe you can help, and your brother from Zimbabwe. What is the brother's name again?
Tawanda. What's your last name?
Tawanda.
Yes.
All right. They want to know, is there any dual citizenship possibilities if someone is coming over and they invest and they have money? How does that work?
Well, right now, I mean, those are things we can explore. There has been conversations about providing those opportunities. From my last, research, that has not been finalized. But again, we as African Americans have to get more involved with foreign policy. These are things that can be negotiated through diplomacy on behalf of us as taxpayers in America, working with our brothers and sisters in Zimbabwe. There's an embassy here. That embassy, the United States Embassy, should not be working on behalf of the CIA. It should be working on behalf of you and me. These are our tax dollars. I don't agree with anything that Donald Trump is doing. The unfortunate part about it, our tax dollars, the blood on our hands, is actually being used to be harmful. We need to be just as vigilant as we are about Black Lives Matter and police brutality. We need to be as vigilant about the brutality of our military complex. We need to be as engaged in the brutality of our foreign policy in Africa and the militarization of Africa. We have a voice based on our tax dollars that are being spent and the citizenship we have. We need to make sure we leverage that. Now, that's if you decide to stay in America, leave America. What we need to do is use every device and resource to make a better world, especially in Africa. And if we as descendants of African people aren't the ones that are fighting for the better policies of the United States, I don't think anyone else is going to come. They're not coming to save us. We got to save ourselves. So,
Brother Sinclair.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Brother Sinclair. How is the consciousness out there with our African brothers and sisters? Are they coming around with the level of information? How is the knowledge coming, brother?
They need more knowledge. One of the biggest weapons that have been used to keep our people enslaved and colonized is the media. The images that are portrayed of Africans to us in America, and the images of African Americans portrayed to folks on the continent. When you got Medea and you got all these, skinning and grinning and all the violence that's proliferated, a lot of the people don't have a clear picture of the African American in his and her greatness. All they see is caricatures. So we need more people like you, Brother Sarnetta, and more professors like Brother Jahi. We need to come up with our own education process using all these media outlets like you already are doing, and get that to the people on the ground. One of the things that we're using right now is we give out these buttons to folks. It says, "I love Black people." And that might be curious to you, but there are people from other parts of there are Europeans who call themselves African.
Right.
But only Black folks call themselves Black folks. So what we're telling Black folks is that you're amazing, that these are lies. If you look at what has been done to Africa, what is told is that somehow the European was civilizing indigenous African people. But there's nothing civil about killing, raping, and stealing. So when we're talking about BitMari, when we're talking about our Pan-African Bitcoin platform, we also talk about our orientation. We have to elevate our ancestors and their contribution to this world. And those things have been hidden, they've been stolen, and we have to redeem those things. So it's a two-part approach. We have to help brothers and sisters on the continent realize the truth about what colonization has done. And we got to help our brothers and sisters in African-American brothers and sisters who suffer from an identity crisis, who don't know who they are and somehow don't act like who they are. And so we're using technology plus this education and orientation to kind of bring folks together. And we don't need everybody. No, we would like everybody, but it's just like your followers. You have some of the best and most conscious and progressive people. All we need is a critical mass. If we get enough brothers and sisters who are conscious and can use this technology, it'll be an exponential change. So you're absolutely right. There's still a lot of work to do because many brothers and sisters on the continent know more about European history than the history of our people in the world, which is much larger, more profound than the limited European history, which is less than maybe 2,000 years.
Let me ask you, brother.
I'm sorry.
Yes, let me ask you, are there computers out there amongst the youth? And if so, brother, are you connecting them to Black News 102 so that they can see what's going on here and get more up to date with the information that we're bringing out? Are they connected?
Yeah, see, now you bring up another good point. Most people have access to a cell phone, and many people have access to a smartphone. But the trick they're playing in Africa is just like I told you about the remittances. We pay the highest fees to move our own money in Africa than the people in Europe, North America, South America, and Asia. It's done in order to keep us underdeveloped. We make these institutions are making it hard for us to do business on purpose. Well, another thing that you'll find is that Africa as a continent has some of the highest internet fees of all the continents. Let me say it another way. It's not the physical computer or phone that's as much of the problem. It's the cost of data. It's the cost to actually download your video make someone have to judge, are they going to do that or do something else with that? Because they're about to run out of data. What we're going to have to do is fight for these companies to decrease their predatory practices or high internet costs in Africa. And we got to come up with technologies that reduce the data that our content uses. We have to do something that can lessen the data of your video so more brothers and sisters can have access to it without using up all their data. That is another issue that's not talked about because they are exploiting us. So European telecom companies, they'll charge European countries less to use their services, and they'll charge Africa more to compensate the discount they gave in Europe. We have to make sure that the playing field is fair. There's too many brilliant people on the ground in Africa who can't get access to the Wi-Fi, not because they don't have a cell phone, it's because the data is too expensive.
Yeah, let me ask you, brother, how do the brothers and sisters over there treat you? Because we are taught over here that they don't like us. They hate African Americans from over here. How do they treat you, my brother Sinclair, being that you are over there, boots on the ground, you are interacting with them every day, you are sitting beside them, you are eating, you are sleeping. How do they treat you, my brother?
Well, there's people in America that don't like me, so I ain't never been looking for somebody like me.
Go ahead, brother. Yes.
I'm gonna tell you right here, I'm a grown man. I don't need. I say this. I've met amazing people here on the continent. I think again, people don't see enough African Americans. We talk about Africa, but we don't come. We don't come back home. So in many ways, there's a real gap where they don't get a chance to meet us. What they'll do is they'll meet Europeans here, and the Europeans will talk bad about African Americans and tell the Africans how wonderful they are. And I say this to say, hello? I say this to say that we have to come and actually show the brothers and sisters on the ground the truth. We are the truth, but we have to show up. And that's not just, these church groups and some of these NGOs. See, sometimes, you got brothers and sisters traveling because of the military, traveling because of these other organizations, and they're basically repeating and regurgitating the colonial, neo-colonial message. We need more free African Americans to come on their own dollar so they can tell the truth as they know it and not be agents on behalf of institutions that want to recolonize Africa. So again, I think the brothers and sisters on the ground here have been receptive, okay? But at the same time, a lot of them have been given misinformation, just like we have in the States. So again, but the hospitality, I've lived a lot of my life in the South, and they always talk about Southern hospitality. There's nothing like African hospitality, the welcomeness that people have. What's it, Ubuntu? What's the Ubuntu, the welcome thing? The word for welcoming, Ubuntu?
It's Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Yes.
What is that?
It means we are one. We are one. Africa, we are one. I mean, despite that, you're from Botswana, Zambia, Malawi, or Mozambique. So we are just one. Even if you're a Black American, or as long as you're African, from whichever continent you are from, Ubuntu means we are one.
Yeah, so we're about that Ubuntu.
Yeah, I'm about that Ubuntu too. And let me say this, I've also traveled to Africa extensively. And let me tell you, the more and more I've made over 30 trips to various countries, the more and more I go, when I get on those airplanes, I see so many whites and Chinese, right, over there doing business, making money. Last year, and I met a Danish white guy who was farming 40,000 hectares of land. I said, to myself, why aren't all these black farmers? I come from a farming family out of Arkansas. I went and told my uncle, I said, we need to be in Africa doing business. Why are we allowing these Europeans to do this? Right? To eat. Africa is the food basket of the world, but we're over here making complaints, talking about civil rights when we got a whole continent. Right? So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I think you're right. The opportunity's here, but again, it's the right orientation. I tell people, don't come over here trying to imitate what European has done to colonize our people in blackface. Black don't mean you can't be oppressive and sick in the mind. We have to come with the proper orientation. We have to come with respect. I've learned more from the brothers and sisters on the ground here than I've been able to say or teach or give to anyone. So I'm humbled and thankful for what I've been exposed to. So I think when we come here, we have to decolonize. And with BitMari, our catchphrase is decolonize your life. We can't talk about decolonizing anything until we decolonize our own minds, our own selves. And I say that to say, we can't come back over here looking for diamonds like the European. You know, it would have been different. Like, as you know, I always talk about pre-racial Africa, before the colonizing of the Arab and colonizing of the European. Africans had traded freely with Asians and Americas without these wicked ulterior motives. But when you look at what colonization has done, people went around the world killing people for rocks. Whatever you think about gold, it's artificially valued. Diamonds, you can't eat them, you can't do anything but marvel at how wonderful they are. But they're only wonderful because psychologically we give them value. I say that to say is we have to value each other more than these dang rocks. And I'm not saying that that's to overlook the resources here, but the Eurocentric or the colonial methodology devalued the human being. And it elevated these inanimate objects and materialism. We gotta go back and go to the fundamentals. We need to be bonding with our brothers and sisters in a spiritual way, in a productive way. And if we do this the right way, everybody will profit. But if we go over here, colonial way with a black face, all we're gonna do is create a more toxic world full of pollution, the killing of animals in the way that they become extinct, as well as global warming. We cannot imitate the colonial model. We have to deconstruct it and create a new and better one. And I say that meaning based on indigenous African values, using modern, futuristic technology, we can do something much better than what the European attempted to do to our brothers and sisters on the continent.
Brother, how's the weather over there right now, brother? Talk to me. Is it humid? Is it sticky? Is it hot? How's the weather?
Well, my wife is from the Dominican Republic, and it's always hot and sticky there. In Zimbabwe, though, it's about to be winter. Their seasons, wow. We're in the southern hemisphere. So the only country more south than Zimbabwe is Botswana and South Africa.
How cold do it get? What is winter like? How cold do it get?
It get down to the 50s.
Oh, wow.
So at nighttime, it can be in the 50s, brother. It gets cold here. Let me say it another way. In the summertime, it'll get up to the 80s, and at night, it'll probably get down to the mid 70s. But in the wintertime,
that ain't bad.
In the wintertime, though, it gets to be 50, 54. You can get some 48s. I mean, it gets cold. You got to wear I was so ignorant. The first time I came in August is their winter. I came here with shorts on, looking like a fool. Grown men don't even wear no shorts.
Right.
Grown men wear long pants and after. They don't wear no shorts. And I was cold as hell. So again, you're going to have to wear a proper coat and a proper hat in the winter. And their winter starts, when does your winter start?
It starts in April, May, June, July, August.
Let me know about some of the businesses that you see around in the street. Like, Do they have McDonald's, Starbucks? Are they all out there? Talk to us about that.
Zimbabwe, Africa, and
I didn't hear you. Say it again. Say it again.
Here they got KFC here in the West. See, Kentucky Fried Chicken's everywhere.
Oh, you breaking up now, Sinclair? You breaking up?
They have Kentucky Fried Chicken in Zimbabwe,
And Nando's also.
and Nando's.
No McDonald's yet? Yeah, you breaking up.
In South Africa.
You breaking up bad, Sinclair.
Yeah, McDonald's in Zimbabwe, in Africa. McDonald's in South Africa.
Okay. Okay. That's what's up, man. All right, my brother. Jahid, do you have anything else you would like to say before we end the show and let them close out?
I just want to ask one more question. Next time you do the live, how much longer are you going to be in Zimbabwe? And since you're using your phone, next time you can do it outside, where the people can see.
Right.
People outside near the hotel and randomly pick somebody and say, "Hey, you want to say something to Black America?" You know, because Sarnetta has the biggest conscious platform, conscious and Pan-Africanist in the world, right? And so for the people to see real interaction, it will be big.
Right. Yeah, that'd be beautiful.
Well, two big events that we're doing. We're going to a farm that we've been working with on Saturday, and then on Monday, next Monday, we have a meet and greet where we're going to have probably about 20 people from throughout Zimbabwe talking about Bitcoin, talking about
where's that gonna be at?
So the meet and greet is going to be in Zimbabwe, Harare, at the Rainbow.
Access, so that you can do a portion of that so that we can see them and talk to the people.
Absolutely. We can do that next Monday. Well, here's the only trick though. It's going to be 5 o'clock in the evening to about 7 o'clock in the evening. No, that'll work.
What time is it? What time is it right now where you at? What time is it?
Right now it's 9:15.
Woo! It's 9:15 at night?
Yeah. So when it's 7 o'clock here, it's 1 o'clock there. And when it's 7 o'clock at night in Zimbabwe, it'll be 1 o'clock in New York. So we can do something like at 7 o'clock before we close out the meeting, where we can actually come on.
Oh, that'd be beautiful. Everybody could see other Zimbabweans interacting with you, doing business, and we can have a live, nice chat with our brothers. So we also want some footage, Sinclair, of your farm project. Do a little short 3-minute video, 5-minute video, send it to Brother Sarnetta. He'll take care of it, dice it up, and we'll air it to the world. Right, Brother Sarnetta?
Yes, sir. And Brother Sinclair, are there any other African countries you will be visiting before you leave the continent?
All right, I'm gonna be in Johannesburg on next Tuesday.
Call me from there. Hey, brother.
Yeah, we want to do a live from Johannesburg too, with the people. We want to see the people.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So the countries I normally go to are Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Kenya. Those are the 3 big tech spots in Africa. Rwanda is another place, but it's more Francophone, French speaking. But Kenya, Zimbabwe, and South Africa are some of the key places. And the reason I say that is because we can do business via the internet. Even the people who can't physically come back to Africa because of a host of reasons, we can do business online. And Bitcoin allows you to do that. You can get paid for content, paid for services rendered via the internet and via Bitcoin. So again, these are things that we're creating the opportunity that never been before. Even if you can't physically come, somebody can support this broadcast using a Bitcoin address. And a lot of the Bitcoin businesses on all their podcasts and what have you, they always have their Bitcoin address for folks who want to donate. And especially when the value of Bitcoin goes up, a lot of people get very philanthropic with their Bitcoin. So we talked about day traders and things like that. Well, there's a lot of people who made good money in Bitcoin, and they want to share that Bitcoin with other people, because the more people who use Bitcoin, the more valuable Bitcoin is. So the people who have Bitcoin, it's in their interest to get more Black people, get more indigenous African Black folks actually involved in this, and it makes it better for everyone. So again, you know, I'm all over the continent, but we definitely can be connected.
Okay, my brother. So in closing, brother, what you got for us? Tell us the importance of Bitcoin and why should we invest in it?
Okay, Bitcoin is decentralized. It allows you to send money without friction. Bitcoin is instant, and it's a better way to bring investment to Africa. I mean, you're not cheated on anything, and you don't have to go through those extra charges through all the middlemen and stuff. It's direct and digital. And the good thing about Bitcoin and BitMari is also that we have been moving into universities all over Zimbabwe, and we are leveraging brain power together with the farmers, and we are doing amazing things. And tell you what, we are amazing Black people, and we believe that we are the change that we have been waiting for. We are the future that we have been waiting for, and we just believe that we are change makers.
All right. Thank you. All right, Brother Tawanda. Thank you, Brother Sonetta.
Yeah, one more question. How can we over here help our African brothers over there? How can we help?
A couple of things. We can tell our government to end the sanctions on Zimbabwe. I think very clear and succinctly, everybody needs to reach out to their somebody in the Congressional Black Caucus. The Congressional Black Caucus has done almost nothing as it relates to this. We need to hold all our Black congressmen accountable for the treatment of Africa. So that's one thing. And then two, direct investment. We are creating vehicles for people to actually directly invest in the land here in Zimbabwe. And once we do this, we're going to bring it all over the continent. So again, I think the best thing people can do is to participate in technology, as well as more involved in foreign policy. You know, that is our responsibility as Americans. If you got a passport, if you're paying taxes, you have the right to say, I do. Take your hands off of Zimbabwe.
Okay, beautiful, brother. My brother Jahid, you want to say anything? Last words, my brother?
No, that's it. I think he said it all. I'm waiting for this video footage on their projects. That honey you're doing over there, Zimbabwean pure honey, and whatever other projects. And I'm waiting to see this live one that you're going to do next week with the meet and greet and with you in South Africa. And of course, when you go back to Dominica, I'm sure Sonetta wouldn't mind you talking to some of the brothers and sisters live from Dominica to see what the issue is on the ground.
Absolutely. Thanks again, guys. Thank you so much, brother.
Yo, thank you, man.
Thank
Peace and Black power to the family that's out there. Shout out to We the Gods. I see you, my brother. We out, man. Thank you, Dr. Issa, for making this happen. Thank you, brother Sinclair,
right,
and to my African brothers and sisters over there in Zimbabwe. We here. We love you. We support you, brother. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you.
All right.